All right, thanks for coming today. My name is Mark Scheller, and this is Steve Poosh. He's going to be giving me a hand here. So what I'm demonstrating today is the infinite curved. It's a form I came up with. I had this job presented to me. It's for the Hardwood Development Council, which is a branch of the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture. They promote the use of Pennsylvania hardwoods worldwide. And this trailer is an educational tool they use to travel around within the state and to some places outside the state to promote both good forestry, good stewardship, the use of hardwoods responsibly, and explain how using hardwoods is a good thing for both the environment and the local economy. So this is quarter sawn white oak and walnut. If you could go to the design one. Yeah, this is what I'm known for. This is nice. It's nice to be back in Charlotte. 12 years ago, I won Floor of the Year right here with this floor. So that's pretty fun. Anyway, so this is the design presentation they offered me. This is flipped around. This is the front of the trailer. But basically, what they wanted, the design idea was a walk through Penn's Woods. And they wanted this organic, curvy path to go through the trailer. And of course I said, well, yeah, I can do that. But it'll be really hard. So to make the forms, to make the curved pieces, because they're organic. Instead, after a lot of thought, I came up, it occurred to me if I could duplicate something like this on a larger scale, then, are you familiar with this? This is a drafting tool. It curves. It has a bunch of sheets of metal in it that allow it to curve and then keep that shape. So I just simply made a smaller version of it, or a larger version of it. This is it's wood on the outside, a bunch of pieces of Formica. The center one has a hole that keeps everything registered. And then all the others, if you turn this like this, you can see that there's a slot that allows it to slide on that. So, pretty flexible. I make these as an engineered floor. Well, we screwed it down, but you can see that there's a 5/16 piece of the solid wood on top, which is cut into strips, and then 1/2 inch birch plywood underneath. That way it doesn't spring back at all. These are made, this is made, we make an extra strip. So these strips are about 3/16 wide. I make an extra one for both sides. And then that allows this to be a little wide too. So you don't have to be like fastidious about making it perfect size. The cams exert quite a bit of pressure. And so if you just use the cams directly against the final piece, they'll leave a little dimple or a dent there. So you want to avoid that. That final strip allows it to absorb that pressure and avoid that dimple. I also like to use a strip of, well, this is the fiberglass packing tape. I don't see the end of it right now. But in any case, the fiberglass packing tape on the outside bend of the sacrificial strip keeps it from splintering. So what I'm going to do here today is show you how we make the form. One of the hardest parts of making a curved piece is later fitting it into the floor. So the jigs that we make the curved piece with later can be used to make the forms to cut the templates for putting the floor together. We can clamp the floor, the jig really tight to the form, the bent piece, and it mirrors it perfectly.
So do you have to screw on this side too?
Yeah. And then just leapfrog the clamps along. Rely on the clamps, not your hands here. Any questions so far? Right, so what I do is set the, I cut the paper, I mark it with the Sharpie, and then set the form to the, on top of the paper, yeah.
And then those ones that they're adding there now, that's pushing that.
Yeah, those eccentric clamps are clamping against the form, which I would screw down to the work table. And I just leave the paper in place. And that way, when I take the, even though the plywood's under it, the glue's going to leak down. The paper's like a release film, and allows the whole thing to come up. So I can make the curve to fit the layout. And while we're talking about that, I like to use Gorilla Glue. Yeah, it doesn't. It gives you a little more open time. It's still fast, but it also doesn't tend to creep, where the yellow glues will creep. It also takes finish. This would be glued onto the plywood at 5/16 onto 1/2-inch plywood. You later run it through a planer, a power planer that cleans the glue off and makes it flat. And but if you were to groove this, that would be right below the solid part of the wood. It will lose its structural integrity, and there would be no benefit really to tongue and grooving it. It doesn't need that. So, yeah, so these forms, we're clamping it to both sides, so it will conform to the curved piece we've made perfectly, or at least very well. And then I'll use a router with a trim bit on it and cut the masonite. I like to use masonite because it's consistent. And then that will give us a form with a slot in it. And then we'll use that over the floor and cut the slot. So this seems tedious because we're here, but we did, the Woodmobile had about 50 feet of curved border in it.
You got this one.
Oh, here. And between Steve and I, we made the forms, cut the slots, and installed all 50 feet of curved border in a day. So that's pretty fast.
How do you?
Well, I didn't charge enough, but I got about 20 bucks a square foot. So, but the Woodmobile is a nice, it's a educational tool, and it's part of what the state does to promote hardwood floors. So this is the. Can you pull these?
Yeah.
No? I think you need this bit. So we screwed it down just for the sake of. So it's not sliding around. You wouldn't really do that, but. So there's the template. For my installation, I used the 3M, those pull things, what are those strips called? Yeah, it's a double-sided tape, but the kinds you can pull and then releases. Yeah, so no fasteners, didn't screw this down or nail it down or anything. And one thing I should mention is that on my bit, I have 2 or 3 bearings on it. The bit here, I only had one. It's engaged with the screws and it went into the screws. So you'll see a little dimple there, but that's easily remedied by putting more than one bearing bit on top of the trim bit. So then what I would do would be I'd have the next curve. These would be long. They're made long. So they overlap. I would make the next template that would overlap this template. And so they would come into here. So each template could do its own, cut the own slot. See how we use the router again for that. And drop it right in the floor. I like to use there's a trim bit that's used for like solid surfaces and corian that has like a 15-degree angle that cuts this plywood back. Sometimes I'll do that. One other thing I want to show you is the way I cut the butt joints. Can you clear this off? So once you'd get all the slots cut in the floor, you would have, the slot would be continuous through the floor. There's a joint here you can see. I would lay this piece wild, mark on the floor where I wanted the joint to be, lay this piece in, mark where I wanted the joint to be as well, and then I just cut it by hand. There's a little trick to it, I'll show you. This saw it's pretty shiny, so it's reflective. I don't know if you'll be able to see this. Can I bring this over here? So this is the good piece. So say I wanted to cut it there. If you put the saw in such a place that the reflection is a continuation of the line of the board. On a regular curve, you can use a tangent square, which makes a line that's perpendicular to tangent. But that's not the case because the curve is not even on both sides. Does everyone follow that?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so that, you mark your board, you cut it by hand, cordless, and I did, I don't know how many cuts, at least a dozen, and everyone was right. So, yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, anyone want to try it? You can. That's old guy thing. Yeah, so that's it. Any questions? Thank you.